Our vision is to build that Web3 neobank where everyone has a fair shot. That's why we came up with Canza Finance, an emerging market infrastructure on-chain, assisting the demand of stablecoins that are needed within different markets. Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, as well as assisting with RWA sector. It's not just financial inclusion, but just financial access.
You were a network engineer working at AT&T. What made you decide to change it all up and go into decentralized finance in Africa and emerging markets?
I've been really focused on this narrative since 2015. One of my uncles said, you need to build products for the people. You don't really just build products for the governments, etc. That's when I was like, I have to relocate to Africa.
You said that stablecoins are just such a massive innovation. I'm curious, why is that so important for what you're doing in Africa?
So one of the challenges that we're seeing is the US dollar shortage that are in banks. You want to go and spend $100,000, that transaction might take 1 or 2 weeks, or it could take 1 or 2 months. So when stablecoins is instant settlement, simple and very effective as well.
5 years from now, what does Canza Finance look like?
We're going to be that Web3 neobank. Stablecoin utilization, innovative products around stablecoins for yield generation. You can do the tokenization of your assets. Let's say log into your computer, you can digitalize your own land, and then they become an asset. We're at this part where the stories and taking pride of where you're from, we're in that era now, and I think that, yeah, that's a beauty part. It's going to get really interesting.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs, sharing our vulnerability, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Oyedeji Oluwoye, the entrepreneur, blockchain expert, and financial equality advocate. You are the co-founder and CTO of Canza Finance, a pioneering platform that is redefining access to financial services in emerging markets by combining blockchain technology with decentralized finance and tokenized assets. Canza Finance is solving the critical problem of financial exclusion by bridging the gap between traditional financial systems and cutting-edge technology. You empower people in underserved regions with innovative solutions like cross-border settlements, decentralized protocols, and tokenized real-world assets, giving them access to stable, secure, and scalable financial products. Your mission is to build the world's largest neobank by leveraging Web3 technology to create universally accessible financial services that drive inclusive economic growth. Ultimately, you believe that by unlocking the power of the blockchain, Canza Finance will empower billions of people in emerging markets to achieve financial independence and sustainable development. Deji, welcome to London Real in Dubai.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
We're excited to have you here. I want to start by saying that Canza Finance is one of our portfolio companies here at London Real Ventures, the world's first media-powered investment firm, where our mission is to transform the world by investing in cutting-edge Web3 and AI companies while giving our partners marketing exposure across the London Real media platforms and academies. We heighten awareness, create customers, and build communities by leveraging our global audience and extensive network. Deji, we are super excited to be part of this journey with you. So let's jump in. What is Canza Finance?
Thank you. I love the intro. So Canza Finance basically is emerging market infrastructure, really assisting the demand of stablecoins that are needed within those different markets, as well as assisting with the RWA sector. So there's different aspects of tokenization that we need to basically implement, because when we're talking about different markets, we have to build each of those stacks. So Canza Finance is building the innovative tools on-chain and, like you said, financially accessible.
You know, in decentralized finance, when we all come into this space, we hear, it's this massive opportunity in this massive ecosystem. And then soon after, we hear about the billions of unbanked people in the world. And I know you had kind of an early realization when you were looking at friends and relatives that were sending money in Africa using Western Union. And I also remind people that there's also tens of millions of people in the good old US of A and people in Europe that are also unbanked that get fleeced by these organizations to do financial transactions. And I believe you even said in the past, these are the very people that actually need the money. And yet they're being charged these ridiculous rates and not even being offered services in banking. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I think it was maybe some of those aha moments that kind of drove you to create Canza.
100%. So I spent like 7 years as a network engineer, building up the network within the Asia Pac region. And I started seeing how we're all interconnecting, right? The world is global now. I think that's a big ethos of Web3. It's basically global connectivity. So when we're talking about different parts of the world, you go to Africa, you can go to some parts of Southeast Asia, even some parts of LATAM as well. Mobile phones is one of the biggest penetration aspects. And that's what I've seen from my network and engineering career, is that you can utilize the telco technology and basically the infrastructure. And then Cisco had basically a line which it was called the human network. So if we start looking at people like that, it's just peer-to-peer, same parts of what we've seen in the Bitcoin white paper. Now we can utilize those different tools and technology, and we can send all different types of data. And that's the biggest thing about Web3. It's not just about finance. As we've probably heard many times, Bitcoin is just the first application of Web3. But then now you can think about, other different aspects in the healthcare, governmental sectors. So I think that's the part you can utilize this mobile penetration, build an overlay, different infrastructure on top of that, and now get access to different tools.
You've got quite an interesting story. I mean, you think you were born in Australia, moved to Alabama, then you moved to Nigeria, now you spend also time in Dubai. Mm-hmm. You were, like you said, network engineer, working at AT&T, doing all sorts of tech stuff in America. What made you decide to change it all up and go into decentralized finance, move to Nigeria and tackle this massive problem of decentralized finance in Africa and emerging markets?
That's a really great question. I think when basically corporate America aspect, and you think you're going towards the right path, right? You go to school, you do your master's degree, you're making sure you hit all your KPIs. At some point, I just felt like once you get into these systems, I'm a person of, if I'm putting a lot of energy into something, I would like to see that effort on the other side. Then once I got into these different realms, you started understanding that, these systems are not truly for like the hard workers, the go-getters type of thing. So after that, I started getting into digital assets. I did that as my master's thesis. And I was looking at the internet of money. Once I figured that out, I was also, okay. I started seeing how much, if I were to send money back into Africa, the Western Union fees model didn't make sense to me. And I'm a person that I dive into rabbit holes. So I've been down the rabbit hole for the last 9.5 years. So very interesting.
So when did you first get into blockchain and buy your first bit of Bitcoin?
100%. 2015, for the master's thesis. The thesis was called the network infrastructure of the Bitcoin network.
Wow.
So at that time, downloaded Coinbase on the phone. There was like CoinDesk was the only one that's giving me like the information of the tickers. You had like these different like message boards. None of the information was truly centralized, so you have to really dig through it. I'll be very honest. I probably never said this before. The reason why I went this topic for my master's thesis is because I knew like even my professors couldn't really dig into it. So, but now that put me on this journey now, which I've loved. It showed so many different like hurdles and cycles. But I think it was around 424 because the previous cycles was the halvings. So I wanted to test that out for the thesis as well. And then the halving was going to be in May 2016. So, and that's when I seen a price increase of like from 424 to like 6 something. I was like, oh, $200. So this is it, right? So that's when I really got into it. And then 2016 rolled over into the end of that. That's when Ethereum, you had like these different networks breaking off. Ethereum Classic, and then you had Bitcoin Cash, and then moved into spring 2017. And then that's when like you had like the old platforms such as like GDAX, used to be now Coinbase Pro. And then they listed Litecoin, and then it just kept going. ICOs, Ethereum, basically utilizing that platform to fundraise. That was the biggest use case. And then I've just been stuck ever since, man.
And when did you decide to go all in on Canza?
Yeah, great one. That's a really great one. This is 2020, COVID. So COVID was coming around. There was an opportunity to leave as well, and then I got into an accelerator, and this is what I really knew, because in 2017 I started going back to my yearly trips to Africa, and I was like, hey man, you guys should look into this, right? Because I seen currency agents on the street, they're doing trades. So I was like, hold on, this is like a African Wall Street, right? But it was like, what's the word we use now? Hard delivery. Like people are just doing it. This is cash and this is just FX. So I was like, okay, there could be telco tools that we could build around this to give the rates to some of these agents. So we built a tool, maybe you're familiar as well. You know, the star like 347 hashes to top up prepaid cards. So that's called USSD. And myself and my co-founder, we started building APIs with that, with Africa's Token APIs. We connected that, fed into the rates, and then that would go into basically the short code message. So that was the initial aspect of building tools to assist these different regions, because how I look at it, the internet is a great equalizer, right? There's no point of like us rebuilding the same system. So looking at Web3, we can now basically build tools that everyone has a fair shot. At least we can have that good restart type of thing. So I don't want these parts of the world or different sectors to be missing out just because of what reason, right? We all have we all started, the white paper came out. So that was a big asset there.
Okay, and then you accelerated, and by going through that, you started kind of sketching out what you wanted to build with Canza?
Yep. So went to Australia for a year, got out of the tech, started working with my friend in the construction aspect, which was really good because Australians are very hard workers. So you can wake up at like 5 a.m. in the morning and you're working all day. So that's what I really get from that part of the world. But then we got into another accelerator. So we graduated at this Protocol Labs in Consensus Mesh. Very, very good, insightful, understanding how to build a product and then basically scale. And then from there, as an entrepreneur, once you say you're a new entrepreneur, you go into an accelerator, it's like, hold on, I do this, we raise capital, and then you go, it's not like that, right? Just like with everything in life. So basically that really had a good period of like really building the right product and the right avenue. And then there came to a point as well as I've been really focused on this narrative since 2015, but I have another aspect that one of my uncles said, to really be like other, you need to build products for the people. You don't really just build products for the governments, etc. Like that will not change if anything else changes. So that's when I was like, I have to relocate to Africa as an adult, and that was a really good journey. Learned a lot, and yeah, it was good. It was good, and that was basically the starting blocks. I think 4 months into that, that's when we started doing our seed round, and then basically all the investors that we met like a year and a half before that, and all the accelerators previously. That's when they're like, okay, hold on. It's not just you're talking the narrative, right? You're really actually there on the ground. Yeah. And I think that was a very big factor.
I think when you kind of came and pitched our group, for me, that was a real turning point in the conversation when you said, you can't build, a DeFi system in Africa unless you're in Africa.
Yeah, facts.
And then when you move there and you're on the ground, I was like, okay, this guy's serious.
Yeah, I think, there is a lot in the diaspora, right? You go to the UK, you go to the US, you go to schooling, and you're like, okay, I want to bring this solution back home. But it's what's the term I use? Localization of basically like the products, right? You have to really understand the local layout. I think you're talking about a region that has, multiple different languages, right? You got Anglophone, you even got the Francophone, French-speaking countries, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, the DRC Congo. You got Nigeria, English, and then it has its own tribal languages as well. You got South Africa. I don't even know how many languages they have there. I think it's like 16 or 17 that are nationally recognized. So you have to really understand the moving parts. And I think that's the different aspects when we talk about the European or the US markets. Even just how you talk, right? It's just a communication aspect. So once you can understand it, then you can build products around that because the people are the ones actually going to be using them. It's not going to be, your OTC desks that do billions of dollars building the product that you want to do in Rwanda, right? So now you have to, and that's the whole part, build products for the people, so.
Powerful. Can you tell me just a rough idea of what gets transacted on Canza Finance in Africa right now? Like the countries and the types?
Yep.
Because people keep saying Africa, but I mean, Jesus.
There's so many countries.
There's so many different countries, and probably the majority of what you do is located in certain countries, at least currently in certain products. But maybe a rough idea.
Yeah, no, I think there is hundreds of millions being transacted in stable coins, right? We just did a report with stablecoin inter-Africa trade with Tether and things of that nature to understand the data. And then we released it with CoinMarketCap, and it got a really good reception because even though, like you said, you can hear it, but when you really have the data, and that's what's really good about the blockchain, everything is recorded, right? So once you can have that and you can basically present that into these different boardrooms, etc., it really makes a difference because you can say, I know fintech guys that move 5 billion, right, of just pure FX of just two pairs. And there are other people that did 300 million, covering maybe 4, 5, 8 different countries. So the capital is being moved there, especially the B2B sector. But then there is the B2C aspect. And I think that's what we're seeing with all these different movements. And every time you've seen these different cycles in digital assets, you hear about these countries, right? Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, because there's innovation, there's a young population that's ready to build, that are hungry, right? And hungry to really make a change. And then they see as well, you have all these tools, Instagram, Twitter, they see how big the world is. So now they can really bring those different ideas and bring them, especially now with a Web3, APIs, open source, basically environment, you can really build and actually make a change.
You said before that stable coins are just such a massive innovation.
Yes.
And maybe even more so for African markets, maybe because there's so many different local currencies, or I'm curious, why is that so important for what you're doing in Africa?
Yeah, so one of the challenges that we've seen when we were on the ground originally is just that the US dollar shortage that are in banks, right? You want to go and say, I want to send $100,000, that transaction might take 1 or 2 weeks, or it could take 1 or 2 months, depending on the different financial institutions.
In Africa?
Yes.
Wow.
So multiple different countries, we're talking about different systems. So everything is basically decentralized, right? So when stable coins, it's instant settlement, it's all on chain. But then now, obviously, you need to have those rails, right? Of those on and off ramps that we hear a lot. So that's really the big reason, because of the US dollar shortage that was initially there. Stable coins as well, right? It's a very simple contract. If you look at the Tether, you look at also Circle. Very simple contract, minting and burning, right? And sending. So those are the biggest business models that we see within this space now. I forgot the number. I think Tether's last quarter was in the billions.
Yeah.
And it's a simple solution. This is not like gigabrain, I'm going to DeFi and do all these different tools and parts. So I think, simple and being clear is it's very effective as well.
Yeah, the Tether business model kills me. It's we're going to issue tens of billions of dollars of stable coins, and we're going to keep the interest. And then, but you get the digital coin, and everybody wins, because the whole system is so slow and so antiquated and so expensive that they don't have to give you the coupon, and it's still a value add for you.
Exactly.
And then they just pocket the coupon. There's no rocket science here.
Exactly.
And they're going to keep doing that because they got network effect. And God bless them, you know? Why not?
It's effective, and it is actually solving. Because when you're talking about import, export, you're coming from either Western countries, China, Asia as well. There's a lot of B2B. One time we had a request for quote for $300,000 just to buy bedsheets from Korea, right? So people don't truly understand that. I think, I'm just going to be frank here, I think, media, right? And this is perfect that we have a media aspect, is that we're growing up seeing, you know, the $1 a day, the aspect of all these different parts of Africa. Where now, where we're older, 20 years later, you see all this new technology, and that's why now people are like, oh, I want to visit, you know, Dakar. You know, I want to visit, you know, Zanzibar in Tanzania. So I think that's the beauty of everything is that, but the whole part is that the capital's there. The capital's always been there since, you know, Mansa Musa and the gold trade, you know, one of the richest, I think the richest man on earth at that time. So I think it really comes down to narrative, and you know, platforms like this are telling like the real stories. I think that's really, really, really big, because I started thinking about like TV, you know, watching Friends or all these shows growing up in like the 90s. But there's an exercise that I do when I'm in like New York. I always talk to the Uber guys, right? And they always come from, you know, all these countries. That's what the beauty about New York is. But there's always a part going towards like the American dream, right? But the American dream aspect of them is I have to go to New York City. I'm like, you can go ahead and make right now, you know, $800,000 in Wyoming, you know? So I think now we're at this part where the stories and, you know, taking pride of where you're from, I think we're in that era now. And I think that, yeah, that's a beauty part, because we see it from Netflix, the categories, the movies, it's the story aspect.
So just drilling down to that, you're saying that we need to change really the perception of Africa from the financial markets, because like you said, when maybe I grew up, I think you're a little younger than me, but we'd see on TV like, yeah, support this poor African country, $1 a day. I mean, if you go back to the 80s, it's the images of starving Ethiopians.
So I'm saying, exactly, the famine, yep.
Yeah, and back then, that was the only media, let's be honest. And so everybody got in their minds that these are capital poor countries and everyone's suffering.
Yep.
And so they don't think of it as a place for making money financially or building financial markets there. When in fact, you're like, wait a second, wake up. The only reason that we're talking about these places is they have massive financial resources, massive populations, and they're massive opportunities.
100%.
But the narrative is the thing holding it back
as well.
And you know that because you're on the ground.
Yeah, and I think from what you said, that unique aspect of the Australian part, the US, and then going back to Nigeria, is that with that, let's say the American system, right? You know, you go to school, you know, go to college, right? You get a job. But then, you know, Australia, with the hardworking aspect that I mentioned, you know, I know people that have stopped at year 10 and they're multimillionaires right now. So the whole thing about what I've seen globally is that, you know, as long as you have that passion and you have the will, you're gonna make it, right? The US is really good because it offers a lot of opportunities, right? You can really, it's very structured. So as long as you understand the system and you can go to those different parts, then you can really make it, right? From really coming from that thing. Australia is very, like I said, very hardworking, and like very, very family orientated type of thing. But like Africa aspect really shows you what you can do without. Probably someone will kill me right now, but like the things that I liked initially before now I got what's it called, solar power at the house now, is that power was coming off and on, right? And that was a part when I was like, hold on, this is why I see so many people naturally entrepreneurs, right? Because if you really want to get something, then it's really going to like, you can really make it happen. And then I think as well, like vision and dreaming, like when there's not too many different aspects, your brain is like focused on other things. But then when you have the opportunity to get access to those tools, then that's how I see a lot of people succeeding. I think there's one stat, there's like, I don't want to misquote here. It's like 80% of doctors in the US are from like the Nigeria aspect. But then when I went back to Nigeria, it's like, hold on, how does this happen? When you see all these people on the streets, everyone's just hustling and bustling, but there's a very unique aspect, which I love about the country, and surrounding countries as well. I went to Cameroon. My co-founder is Cameroonian. I started seeing the French influence, like the breads and all these other things. So it's a beautiful place, man.
And you think that kind of, you said you were lacking power and stuff sometimes in Lagos, and they were just like, okay, it makes people think, all right, how can I fix this? How can I solve this? How can I work harder so this doesn't happen to me?
I think a lot of people are natural engineers, right? Because you're always problem solving. As well is that there's so many people as well. So, you know, the competition in different aspects is high. So you really have to study or whatever path that you pick going forward. But I think what it shows you is that, and I think I'll get this from my grandma. She doesn't know all this Canza, all this technology. She's still in the village in Ede. And basically it's like, you know, you can understand what makes you happy. I think that's one of the biggest things when we talk about life in general, you know, like family or, kids and all these other things. Because, you see people with very little, but then somehow they're still smiling on their face, So it's very unique, man. Very unique.
That's an interesting thing about Africa is like it seems like a happier place. And then you meet the people that are really happy. They seem more genuinely happy than like the happy people in G7 countries.
Exactly.
Isn't that true?
Exactly.
It's so weird.
Yeah. 100%.
People say that also about people in India as well. You go and with apparently less stuff, they're more happy.
That's right.
And so, all right, so you're there on the ground and seeing the potential, all of this human potential there. Yeah. And like back to Canza, like if just so people get an idea, I think I asked you this on the call, if you looked at a lot of the transactions or potential you're seeing, is it like a lot of kind of oil money moving around in Nigeria? Is it, tourist money moving around in Kenya? Is it South African diamond money? Like just to give a rough idea of the lay of the land, what are some of the kind of the activities happening?
Yeah, I think you hit all the sectors pretty well. There's obviously a massive oil and gas. I always had a rich history on the oil and gas sector. But obviously now there's a massive import-export. There's almost 200 million people, right? So
in Nigeria.
Yeah, so now you're importing, you have to import all these different aspects. But then you have, I'd say, obviously, and then it affects the trade from that side, commodities. But I think the import-export and oil and gas sectors are really high. But then as well, now financial services, you have regular, TradFi banks, it needs to service that financial inclusion sector. So you need to get them into the system and get them basically on accounts and all the other different things. So that sector has been doing very, very well. A lot of fintech companies all across the whole continent.
If there's 200 million people in Nigeria, how many of them are banked?
Good question.
A traditional bank there.
Yeah, I don't know the rate currently right now, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
If in America, like 80% of a bank account, in Nigeria, would it be 20%?
Maybe 30 to 40, could be 50, but then there's so many remote parts. Because even myself, I'm much more from Ibadan. It's maybe an hour and a half from Lagos originally. Much more like the Yoruba type of like landscape. So that was where I was going to when I visited like Nigeria initially. So it's totally different lens if you're like, born and raised in Lagos. So there's so many different flavors, and that's just one country, right? I went to Senegal. That was amazing, right? But I'm lucky I had my co-founder there because you have to speak French. But at the end of the day, they have beaches that Australia has the best beaches, I have to be honest. But they have very nice beaches in Dakar. It's like you have like French tourists that come over. Like there's so many different hidden gems, and then you have North Africa as well. And I went to East Africa, good as well. Kenya, Uganda, Kampala. So like, one country obviously that it's really good for the trade and business. But then you have so many different countries right next door.
I'm spending more time in Dubai, and one of my goals is to spend more time in Africa.
Okay.
Because it's 5-6 hours away to all these places. And I think I was telling you earlier, I've been to South Africa and Botswana, but I mean, that was a long time ago, and it was great. I got a vibe, which is very different than what anywhere else, but I want to check out all these places. So you talk about Nigeria. If you had to talk about 4 other countries right now that are active, what would those be? And if you had to talk about 5 more countries in Africa that you think you'll be rolling out to, what would those be?
Yeah. I take the Web3 like ethos pretty like seriously, like working with each other, working together. Like I know a lot of people just be like, solo minded, but like that's the part of like this whole Web3 aspect is to build together, right? Open source. So like if I don't have the coverage, I know I have very good like trusted OTC partners that do. So East Africa, where we talk about Kenya, Uganda, DRC Congo, even Congo Brazzaville. South Africa, to be very honest, is a massive market, very, very big. Then you also have Kenya as well, with their buzz on like technology as well. So I think, from our side, we really cover a lot of different, reach, either us directly or working with our counterparties.
Okay. And when you talk about individuals, is it individuals or also small businesses of those individuals?
Yeah, our small businesses, right? Obviously you have these FX desks that are doing much larger, but we're talking about, just like a mom and pop shop, basically a tourist, like you just said, like a tourist or travel agency. Okay. They need to send money like Citibank to New York to pay for the the airfares and things like that. So all the different factors are all part of the economy over there. So.
Okay. And right now with Canza Finance, what are you building in DeFi? And like, what are you hoping to roll out? I know you got a token coming soon, which is pretty crazy and exciting. I'd be curious what that's being used for. But like, what are you building out in the DeFi space right now?
Yeah, for sure. I think from everything we've like just talked about previously is that's how I see like when you talk about like blockchains like layer one, the on and off ramps is what's needed for everything to be connected. But there are so many different companies or startups doing that, which is needed. But then once that layout is complete, and what is the layer two, right? Like, what do? We see that in maybe the 2020 DeFi boom of like now it's like the lending and the borrowing. So from our side, we wanted to take the Web3 composability and solve the real problems that we've seen from the layer one aspect, where we can like mint and burn assets towards the rates that we actually see online, but then you have different rates that you see on the street. So that was one of the products that we're testing around, which is Baki. Then
Like a little ARB there?
Yeah, there's ARB aspects there, but then also getting the pure feed of the data to understand now, because that's going to affect real like financial aspects, right?
And
if you're getting quoted,
price.
Yeah. Exactly. Because we've been playing around with the CoinMarketCap API now, but then also there is, data that, there's there's parallel markets, right? So we started building tools around that. I think we started now also have another product, which is credit default swaps, which is for centralized exchanges. So what we're seeing within like FTX and like Mt. Gox, if you had a tool that basically could take out that type of reverse coupon of, okay, does these exchanges actually have the proof of reserves that they're saying, that could have been a different trading opportunity. So what we're seeing is that our team, we look at, obviously started from the academia space. I think even I started from like getting a graph like Zcash and just talking to people. And I think that's one of the best ways to really understand a problem. You don't want to go too long where, you want to be 8 years PhD, right? But you want to like really understand it so you can build the cultivator tools for that market. So we took like the financial aspects, got some guys in from like Europe and things of that nature, so we can understand the different melting pots and then bring like the right information to fill in the right gap. So very like financial innovation. So credit default swaps, FX trading on chain. Then we also have some really cool things that we're doing with stable coins for like RWA vaults and yields. So we partnered up with some really big names, so that should be coming out the next quarter. So it's it's going to get really interesting.
Do you think we'll get stable coins for African currencies?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the market, right? But even with our testing aspect with Baki, we've tested out some different formulas for that. It just comes down to the real demands pertaining to that specific region. But 100%, because it's just a matter of time, because it's innovation. I think that's the part about all these different startups is a lot of people is just copy and paste. So when you really have true innovation, then that's where you really get your edge. And I think that's where, if you're a VC or if you're you're an investor, that's where you're looking, because it's easy to copy and paste things, right? But I think you have to try something different. So 100% there will be different stable coins.
So you got the Baki exchange, obviously your credit centralized exchange default swaps, the Jara network as well. Is that something you guys have built for cross-border settlement?
Yeah, that's for the TradFi type of solution. Basically going back from, you have to build each layer, right? So we have to build that layer to a certain degree to understand how that really operates, and then we can build these innovative tools, right?
And so when you go and to Nigeria and you're there to do Canza business, what's your day look like? Are you going to meet with banks down there? Are you going to meet with people on the streets and asking them like, what do you need? What do you use? Let me see how you might use this app. Are you talking to businesses? You're smiling.
No, that's a great question, because like when myself and my co-founder went in 2020, that was the major part. It was like the customer discovery phase, right? You have to get those answers to these questions that you just asked. And then you have to then cultivate that information and start really like moving upon that. Right now, just like with any other country, I'll say probably within Africa, it's regulation. Obviously, that's a major part. So you want to have that open dialogue with the different regulators, because for what we've learned is that for the regulations to go through, like they have to know what they're regulating. So you have to talk to the entrepreneurs and the innovators in these different sectors, right? So that's probably like priority number one. Then obviously, yeah, the current business aspects, client meetings, but there's really good developer communities, and then there's really like communities that want to learn as well. So a lot of outreach as well. And I think from the outreach, we've learned like a lot. We had a university outreach program we did with Seller a few years ago, and we're going to like really like far out universities, but these universities have like 40,000, 50,000 students. And we were in the crowd talking, and these guys are talking about Tezos and different other like blockchains that you would have never have thought. But then that's when the part came about the fees.
How do you get out of a rat race? How do you create wealth not only for yourself, but also for the generations to come after?
I am absolutely amazed with the quality of companies that we're getting exposure to.
We go on to Zoom calls with the innovators and the folks who are building new applications in metaverse, blockchain, artificial intelligence, decentralized finance.
What's going on, everybody? Thumbs up if you can see me.
We are focusing on early stage investment.
And the quality of people that we're getting exposure to, whether it be Dan Tapiero with 1RT, Jason Ma from Open, Yatsu from Animoca.
It's been a phenomenal experience thus far. It has far exceeded my expectations.
We are focusing on cutting edge technologies.
I view it now as the best investment I've ever made. The upside I view is unlimited.
And as a retail investor, I would never get this exposure anywhere else outside of Investment Club.
See you in the investment club.
Right? You're not going to be in Burkina Faso, right? And you're going to be developing on Ethereum, paying $16 just to do some testing contract. $16 in native currency is what, right? So that's when we're like, hold on, this fee aspect, and then maybe there's so much development on the Binance Smart Chain and anything that had the lowest fees, because it all plays in the economy aspect. But then now that economy part gets into the developer community. So you got to now have these different infrastructure and even onboarding tools. Let's just say this. If you want to do coding right now, majority from what I've seen and who I've talked to, it's all English when you're developing your smart contract or whatever. But if you're in Cameroon or Ivory Coast, you'd learn French your whole life. So then now if you do a wrong step on the keyboard and you want to build a multi-billion-dollar project, you see what I'm trying to say? So the outreach is very, very important.
I always hear that Ethiopia is like a place, or Cardano's there, or Hluskinson goes there. And then I used to see the Bitcoiners talk about how people are using it more aggressively than you thought. Is that true? And does that relate to what you're building?
Yeah, I think Ethiopia is a very big hotspot right now. Mining is really massive there. I think
Bitcoin mining or regular mining?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin mining. Okay. Bitcoin mining, probably regular mining too. I have no idea at the moment. But the energy sectors, the regulations, everything supporting that. I think I just went to a conference or the Blockchain Life or something in Dubai.
Yeah.
They had a whole section about that. That was very interesting. I stopped. Africa, right? Yeah. Blockchain. So
Russia. Like Africa.
Yeah,
so there.
I sat down and so Ethiopia, but then also there's, like I said, all these economies now. It's just going back to the people, right? There's people everywhere. So the thing how I seen it much more early, I say in the late like 2017, 2018, is that we all have all this capital and like investments vehicles, right? But then there's a lot of people that's just like my grandma, there's money probably in the roof or something. So now we're in this digital age, is that those like scenarios is now brought into these systems. And then now it's like, okay, hold on, this capital is on chain or whatever, TradFi is in a bank. So now it's digitalized. So now it's like, okay, hold on. Now we can really start building, because then that builds the economy, right? Foreign investment, all these other different things. So I think that's what we're seeing now, is just like the digitalizations basically across all different countries. And now it's just connecting all the dots back to my human peer-to-peer networking.
Yeah, I imagine there's so much capital that's just tied up, like you said, as we say in the States, under the mattress or in the attic or tied into a business. And that just slows a country down, right? Because in a Western world, that would be in the bank, which means it would be lent out, provide capital resources.
Exactly.
So that's what you want to encourage. And when it's on the blockchain, it can go even faster and more opportunity.
And that's the part as well. And that's why I think that the outreach and the education is very important, is because these decision makers, right? They could be 30, 40. It's only one like generation apart. but they think totally different. So you have to really get into their ears and really make them understand, in the best ways possible. But then there is, like you said, now all this capital is coming in these digitalized systems. And then how do we use that to, basically benefit or, better basically the quality of life?
And why not benefit the people for once and not the banks?
Exactly.
And I'm sure that would be refreshing for everybody in Africa, not to mention everywhere else, right?
For sure.
Because I'm sure maybe there are more than else that where centralized institutions dominate.
Mm-hmm.
Before we were talking, you said you guys were ready to scale, and obviously you're looking to support billions of people in the future. And so what's Canza's plan? Obviously you got a token coming up soon. Maybe you can talk about that. And then what's the plan to scale going forward?
Yeah. So basically from, our vision now is like really building that Web3 neobank. And I've had a lot of like talk with the team internally. It's like, what does that truly mean? Right. But like now we talk about Web3, it's not just the financial aspect, it's the data part. So I think we have a very good cohort of investors, like our Protocol Labs and now also now CoinMarketCap. So now we have access to very good high quality data. So now with all that data aspects and these different type of, tools that we can really build on, that's what part of how I see, speaking from my perspective, is that you have the stablecoins and FX, foreign exchange. You have your financial type of trading instruments like centralized credit default swaps. And then you have this data element part, because the stable coins is going to do the cross-border. And then now you need to have this, like the B2C part. So, building apps around the localized ecosystem. So we're talking about a Telegram, right? X amount of users, okay? So it has accessibility to the wallet. So if you can build tools with that, with all the different investors and ecosystem partners that you have already, you can scale. So that's now, if you're looking at it, even at the banking application, how simple is it, right? So if you have your access to your wallet and it's ready in a tool where you're doing the messaging, and the messaging is the data element part now, then you can really basically onboard. Because when we did an analysis of all these different mini applications and all these different startups that were doing gaming, like the top countries were all within like Africa, but then if it wasn't that, it was like Bangladesh, Turkey. So like the mobile penetration narrative plus the blockchain, that's how we see, or how I see now, like Web3 type of banks, because it's the data part, and then you also need the financial aspect. So with the wallet capability, that's the financial part that's done.
It's like the WeChat for Africa.
That's it.
By leveraging Telegram.
That's it.
Is Telegram going to be the future of scaling for you guys in the medium term?
I think from a B2C angle, for sure. It's going to be a very good tool. If you talk about creating your own application and go all these different marketing channels, but if you're, like I said, localized, if I'm already using this, let's build on top of this type of infrastructure stacks. But the B2B side is just really now, onboarding clients, everything within, every part of the world is all trust. So it's having these trust systems with the right partners, and then everything should be good to go. And I think that's the part now where we can take all of our, globally recognized investors and partners with all these different regulations across the world, get the best parts of that, and then basically, like I said, utilize the Web3 type of ethos and build and present that into these different aspects. So the interesting part that I see, especially across the African continent, is that you have, all these different, regulations. When other people see, problems, that's how I see opportunity, right? Because now you can build different products for these different markets. And then they can all still interconnect, because the stable coins are still, doesn't matter what chain it is. I'm very blockchain agnostic, because if I'm in, let's say I'm in Ghana or Algeria, or wherever I'm at, and you want to send me 1,000 USDT, right? Oh, send it to me on Arbitrum. No, I don't have an Arbitrum wallet. What do you gotta do? Like, you can switch, you can change it. So wherever the stable coins are on these different chains, you can utilize that to basically assist the end problem. So I think that's the beauty of the blockchain as well, because it's all interconnected. And with the fee aspects really worked out, I think we're in for a good ride.
And the fees means we got to get off Ethereum mainnet. We got to get on other LTs.
The layer twos, yeah. The layer twos are important going forward.
Are those all cost effective for Africa, or can those still be expensive?
Yeah, no, but the gas fees for layer 2s like AVAX C chains, Rivers, like 0004, Atmos is 00001. Okay. Base as well, I'm sorry, Jesse Powell, Base, and all those guys, the Coinbase aspect, that's really good chain as well. A lot of builders on there now too. So I think.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
Hi, it's Brian Rose from London Real. You probably know that we've just recently been re-platformed on YouTube after 25 months completely in the dark. The truth is, I really need your help. What I really need you to do is click on that subscribe button right now, like this video, and maybe even leave a comment or share the link with friends. We're really fighting against an algorithm that's tried to keep us quiet for so long. And the more subscribers we have, the more people watch our content, the better guests we can bring you, the better content, and we can continue transforming lives. We've been doing this for 14 years now. I want to do this for another 14 years, but I really need your help. So click on that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, share this, and we're going to continue to bring you more and more great content. Thank you.